The moment had all the familiar elements of a modern sports controversy: a crowded venue, heightened emotions, a prominent name, and a rush to judgment before the facts had fully settled. For Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame's head football coach and one of the most visible figures in college athletics, the days following January 3rd unfolded under an uncomfortable spotlight that had nothing to do with wins, losses, recruiting battles, or playoff aspirations. Instead, it centered on a brief, chaotic moment at a high school wrestling meet, a moment that quickly grew far larger than the space it occupied in real time. On Sunday, that cloud finally lifted when it was determined that no criminal charges would be filed against Freeman, bringing closure to an episode that tested patience, perspective, and restraint in an era that rarely rewards any of those qualities. The Mishawaka Police Department completed its investigation into a complaint filed by New Prairie High School assistant wrestling coach Chris Flieger, who accused Marcus Freeman of battery following an incident at the Al Smith Wrestling Invitational. After reviewing the findings, the report was forwarded to the St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office, which ultimately decided the matter did not merit criminal charges. The conclusion effectively ended the legal aspect of a story that had quickly spilled beyond the confines of a high school gym and into the broader college football conversation, largely because of who Freeman is and what he represents at Notre Dame. At its core, the incident stemmed from a situation familiar to anyone who has spent time around youth and high school sports. Freeman was not at the Invitational in any official Notre Dame capacity. He was there as a father, watching his son Vinny, a senior wrestler at Penn High School, compete. Flieger was present as part of the New Prairie coaching staff, fulfilling his own responsibilities on behalf of his program. What should have been a routine competitive environment instead became tense after Vinnie Freeman lost one of his matches. According to accounts in the police report and coverage by the South Bend Tribune, words were exchanged as Vinnie was escorted off the mat and out of the gym by his father and Penn head coach Brad Harper. It was in that transition from the mat to the hallway that the situation escalated. Flieger alleged that as Marcus Freeman walked through a doorway, physical contact occurred that he believed constituted battery. The Tribune, which was covering the Wrestling Invitational, did not witness the alleged contact itself, but did observe the immediate aftermath. Reporters saw Freeman's wife, Joanna, and Flieger involved in a heated verbal exchange before local law enforcement and Mishawaka school officials intervened and separated the parties. In a crowded, emotional setting, the moment quickly fractured into competing narratives, each shaped by perspective, proximity, and emotion. Within hours, the story took on a life of its own. The name Marcus Freeman carries weight far beyond northern Indiana. As the head coach of Notre Dame football, he operates in a space where visibility is constant and scrutiny is automatic. Even a brief, ambiguous allegation can reverberate nationally, amplified by social media and the modern appetite for instant conclusions. For Freeman, the timing made the situation feel even heavier. Notre Dame was navigating a challenging stretch, and his own leadership had already been under intense examination for on-field reasons. This was an unwelcome and deeply personal distraction layered on top of professional pressure. Notre Dame athletics moved quickly to address the situation, issuing a statement denying that any physical contact occurred. The university's position was clear and firm, emphasizing both the context of the confrontation and its confidence in the evidence reviewed by law enforcement. According to the statement, Vinnie Freeman had been verbally accosted during and after his match by a local wrestling coach, prompting Marcus and Joanna Freeman to intervene and remove their son from the situation. The statement stressed that at no point did Marcus Freeman physically engage with anyone, and asserted that video evidence included in the police report fully supported that account. That public support mattered. In moments like this, institutions often choose caution over clarity, offering carefully hedged language while awaiting legal outcomes. Notre Dame instead opted for directness, standing beside its coach while the investigation ran its course. Behind the scenes, Freeman cooperated with authorities, allowing the process to unfold without public grandstanding or defensive rhetoric. For days, he remained largely silent, a choice that reflected both legal prudence and personal discipline, even as speculation swirled and assumptions hardened in some corners. The prosecutor's decision not to file charges ultimately affirmed the university's confidence and Freeman's account of the events. It also underscored a reality that often gets lost in the churn of modern sports news. Not every accusation results in wrongdoing, and not every heated moment constitutes a crime. High school gyms, like football stadiums, are emotional spaces. Parents, coaches, and athletes invest deeply in outcomes, sometimes allowing competitive fire to spill over into words they wish they could take back. That volatility does not excuse poor behavior, but it does provide context, a reminder that sports at every level are human enterprises filled with imperfect people. For Freeman, the resolution brought relief, but it did not erase the experience. Being the subject of a police investigation, however brief, carries weight. It pulls family into the public eye and invites strangers to pass judgment on private moments. It also tests resilience. Throughout his career, he's spoken openly about leadership, accountability, and values, themes that resonate deeply at a place like Notre Dame. This episode forced those ideals into sharp focus, not in a locker room or a practice field, but in a setting far removed from the world he usually controls. Those who know Freeman best often point to his background as a grounding force. A former Ohio State linebacker whose NFL career was cut short by a medical condition, he transitioned into coaching with a sense of purpose shaped by adversity. His rise through the coaching ranks from Ohio State to Kent State to Purdue to Cincinnati and ultimately Notre Dame has been marked by a reputation for authenticity and connection. Players routinely describe him as demanding but empathetic, intense but approachable. That same duality appeared in the university's description of the incident with wrestling. A parent stepping in to protect his child from a verbal confrontation, not a coach asserting dominance or authority. The broader conversation around the incident also exposed the fragility of public perception. In the hours after the initial report, details were sparse, and yet conclusions were plentiful. The temptation to fill informational gaps with assumption remains one of the defining challenges of the digital age. In Freeman's case, restraint from many local outlets contrasted sharply with the speed of national reaction, a reminder that proximity often breeds caution, while distance can invite exaggeration. The eventual finding, grounded in evidence and review rather than emotion, served as a quiet rebuke to that imbalance. As the dust settled, attention inevitably returned to football, to recruiting, to the future of Notre Dame's program under Freeman's guidance. But the significance of the moment lingers beyond the headlines. It offered a case study in how quickly narratives can form and how slowly truth sometimes travels by comparison. It highlighted the importance of due process, not as a legal abstraction, but as a lived principle that protects individuals from being defined by allegations alone. And it reinforced the reality that coaches, no matter how prominent, are also parents, navigating the same unpredictable environments as countless others on cold gym floors across the country. For Notre Dame, standing behind Freeman was not merely an act of loyalty, it was a statement about institutional values. The university chose to wait for facts, to speak clearly once it did, and to resist the urge to distance itself reflexively. That approach carries risk in a media ecosystem that often rewards swift disassociation. It also carries meaning for players, recruits, and families who watch closely to see how leaders are supported when circumstances grow uncomfortable. Freeman, for his part, emerges from the episode with his legal standing intact and his professional role unchanged, but with an experience that will likely shape him in quieter ways. Leadership is forged not only in victory and validation, but in scrutiny and uncertainty. Navigating those moments with composure, allowing the process to work, and trusting in truth are tests as real as any fourth-quarter decision. In that sense, the resolution of this incident closes one chapter while adding another layer to the ongoing story of a coach still early in his tenure at one of college football's most demanding jobs. In the end, the finding that no charges would be filed does more than clear Marcus Freeman's name. It restores proportion to a moment that briefly threatened to overshadow everything else. It returns a father, a family, and a program to the rhythms of their respective seasons. And it leaves behind a reminder that in sports, as in life, not every conflict defines a character, and not every accusation becomes a truth.
Sometimes the loudest moments fade, and what remains is the quiet reaffirmation of fairness, patience, and perspective.